Hello, and welcome to Boomer and Beyond Wellness. I'm Angela Fischetti. So today we're going to send some TLC to the feet, ankles, shins, and calves. Now, the accessories we're going to be using today, well, is a sticky yoga mat. We'll also be using a tennis ball. Folks, don't pull out like a baseball or a racquetball. They're just too hard. We'll also be using a couple of yoga blocks, a yoga strap, and of course, I'm sitting in a chair. I always prefer with the chairs that they do not have wheels and that they don't have arms either, because they can be limiting. And also I'll be using actually kind of like a silky pillowcase. I was going to suggest a hand towel, but the fabric of the towel on a yoga mat, they really do stick. So you want something that you can actually move, thus the sort of silky pillowcase. And now this leads me into some of the precautionary measures, medical disclaimers. For one, the yoga mats are typically made from some amount of latex. So if you have a latex allergy, you want to look for latex-free or non-latex. Now, this could be a little bit different, the issues that I mentioned today, because we're focused so much on the feet. So if you have arthritis in the feet, if you have high or low arches, a drop foot, if you have hammer toes or bunions, if you have plantar fasciitis, heel spurs, Achilles tendonitis, even a torn Achilles, and anterior compartment syndrome, then I'm going to invite all of you to not jump right in to do the video. What I want you to do, please, is to preview the video first and look for what you can do. It will be there. But if you're still not sure, then after you observe it, then I would invite perhaps your podiatrist or the medical health care practitioner who knows your body best to preview the video and then help you make an informed decision. Now, we're going to begin here with how to sit in the chair, and you can do this in your office chair as well. So what we want to do is line up the ankles to the knees to the inside of your high pelvic bone, and this is the iliac crest. So that's how we're sitting. Another adjustment, and I borrow this from yoga, is place the hands underneath the buttock flesh, and don't be afraid to do so. And then you pull the flesh not only straight back, but then out wide toward the shoulders. I do a little bit of rocking from side to side just to make sure that I'm sitting up and forward on the front edge of the ischial tuberosity. And in yoga, we refer to these as the sits bones. So now let's talk a little bit about the anatomy. So I'm going to talk about, well, starting up here, we're talking from the lower extremities. So from just below the torso to the top of the knee, this whole area is called your thigh anatomically. And then from below the knee down is called your leg. How about that? Okay. And so I'll try to refer to these properly throughout the course of the class here today. Now, as far as some of the bones that are involved here, well, we have the femur bone, right? This long thigh bone. But then when we get down into the leg, we have on the medial side, we have the tibia. On the lateral side, we have the fibula. And then some of the movements of the ankle joint and of the feet. Well, I'm going to turn this way for you so you can see here. This is called dorsiflexion. So I'm bringing the dorsal side of the foot, the top of the foot, up toward my face, right? And then if I go in the opposite direction, well, the bottom of the foot, the sole of the foot, is referred to the plantar side. So this would be plantar flexion. Then we also can do, of course, rotation with the ankle. And here are a couple of movements that you might do yourself. And I know I do this because when I check my sneakers, and there's always one side that's a little peculiar, the angle of the heel. So if I turn the sole of the foot, the plantar side in, it's called inversion. And then if I go in the opposite direction, well, that is called eversion. So that was just, a few of the little tips about the anatomy that I wanted to teach you here today. So we're going to begin here with the actual movements in a warm up for the feet. I want you to grab your tennis ball. Here we go. So I'm going to put the ball underneath my foot. Now, all I'm going to do is roll the ball in the direction of the fibers of the muscles, right? And it just feels so good. Now, please, if you do have heel spurs, please don't push down hard on the ball. And there's no reason to push down real super hard on the ball here. And then I'm going to go to the medial side of the foot, which is really great. It feels so good on the instep. I'm going to make sure it doesn't get too far away from me. And then I'm going to roll it on the lateral side. Back to center. It feels really lovely. You don't want to rush this. And then we're going to place the ball underneath the ball of the foot. I'm going to stretch my toes wide apart. And then I move the ball underneath the first digit, which is the big toe. And I'm going to be at the base of the big toe with the ball, and I'm going to give it some pressure. I'm going to push down. And then I move to the second digit, and I push down. Third, the base of the third toe, the third digit, push down. Make sure it doesn't escape you. Move it to toe. And pinky toe, the fifth digit. I'm going to bring this a little closer. And again, I'm going to repeat, toe stretched wide, beginning from the fifth digit, then the fourth, just giving a little bit of pressure, then the third. Now, you might have a neuroma, and here is the area where you might feel that neuroma, so be careful, all right? To that second toe, second digit, and then to the base of the big toe. Great. So now I'm going to just re-roll it just a few more times. This is a wonderful thing to do. If you have plantar fasciitis or heel spurs, sometimes you get up in the morning, you put your foot down on the floor and it's ouch. Don't even get up yet, right? Just, sit over the edge of the bed and grab that tennis ball. All right. So we move it over. And, oh, feels so good. Forward and back, just follow the fibers. Sitting up tall, no slouching in the chair. I'm not sitting back, but if you have back issues and you need to sit back, just don't slouch. Don't do this. Don't sit like in an abdominal crunch. I'm going to bring that back to me. Okay, let's go medial side. And lateral side. I'm not kidding. Do this on a plane. I tell you, every time I fly, when I land, my ankles and my calves they're really swollen. And forward and back. And then I do some of this work. The whole idea is you want to move the fluid. You want to move the lymphatic fluid, especially get those lymphatic vessels pumping, and they don't have a valve. So the only way to work them is through exercise and movement. Just getting all those areas. And here we go. Now I'm going to bring that ball, stretch my toes wide across the ball. It's abduction of the toes. And you're going to push the ball down into the base of that first digit, the big toe. Then we move over to the second digit, push down. Third. And I notice when I do this work that one foot is stronger than the other. That's just an observation. So you just do a little bit more work on it when you're working on your own. So I'm at the fifth toe. So now I push down on the fifth digit, back to the fourth, back to the third. And you're going to feel if the ball goes too far away from you. Back to the second, back to the first. Couple of more rolling forward and back. So this is just some simple stuff, but it helps. And if you have to sit all day long due to health or due to work, this is great stuff to do. Okay, so now putting that ball underneath, I'm going to grab my fabric here and I'm going to place this out in front underneath my, well, you're going to see it as my left foot, okay? Underneath the left foot. And what I'm going to do, because what I'm going to want you to do is grasp the fabric. But I'm going to give you a little help, a little heads up here, a little bit of a start. We're going to do a little tent here, because then it can grab some fabric, all right? So whole idea, and I'm going to turn to the side just so that you can see. I will be lifting the sole of the foot, keeping the heel down, and then I stretch the toes wide to grab the fabric, but then lift back up. So you're going to notice your shin muscles working because we're working the foot in dorsiflexion, okay? So we're going to come here, lift up. I'm going to get my foot close enough to the tent. Now I'm going to stretch the toes wide apart, grasp those toes, grasp the fabric, lift, open. So I'm going to pull it up. Now, don't worry if you don't actually grab the fabric because it might be sticking to the mat, and release. But do the movement, no matter what, do the movement. Now, make sure you're feeling that contraction through here in that dorsiflexion. I'm going to give myself a little bit more of a tent, a couple of more times. Curl, grasp, lift, release. Curl the toes, grasp the fabric, lift, and release. Now, I'm going to bring the foot closer toward me. I'm going to tent it a little bit again. Now I'm going to do the opposite side. So I'm going to be working that plantar side more. So now I'm going to lift the sole of the foot, heel is down, and I'm going to scrunch up the toes and push the fabric away. And I'm going to scrunch up the toes and push the fabric away. Do that a few more times, push it. Now, I did an 8-mile weighted vest walk on the beach today. So I feel this work big time in my shins. I'm going to do another one, push it away. One more, curl, push away, and lift. So you're going to feel all this working, folks. This is great. So now I'm going to move this over to the other side. And sometimes people do stuff like they curl up and grab marbles, pennies, whatever. So I'm doing that little tent. So I'm going to dorsiflex the foot first, curl the toes, grab the fabric, lift, release. Curl, grasp, lift, release. And I'm going to create some more of a tent. And release. Curl, grasp the fabric, lift, release. And again, grasp, lift, release. So you see what we're doing here? It's very simple, but it's all really great for the feet and the shins. So now, let's see, I'm going to back up. I got a little tent there. I'm going to push that away. And I'm going to curl and then push away and lift the foot. Get closer toward the fabric, push away. Bring that tent toward me, curl, push the fabric away, lift the toes, curl, push away. One more. So yeah, you'll notice that really you're working plantar on one side, the dorsiflexion on the other, and release. Wow, I really feel that. Okay, now I'm going to continue with some of that same work, but done a little bit differently. I'm going to sit to the side because I want you to see what happens here. So I'm going to ask you, it's one of the few times that I ask anybody to sit so that your knees are slightly beyond the ankles. I rarely ask you to do that. And the feet are hips width apart. So we're going to come into plantar flexion. So I'm going to lift the heels. Now, is this a full plantar flexion? No, because the toes are bending, but I want to pump those calves and then lower the heels down and lift. Now you can add weight to this by putting a dumbbell across, or maybe a weight in each hand. If you have a big plate and you can use heavy weight, go for it. Obviously you wouldn't do that on a plane or at your office. Well, unless it's your own building, so you can do that. And lift. So again, we've got to get those valves moving the fluid. And boy, they can accumulate in those legs, right, over the course of the day, especially with sitting. And I have to tell you, a lot of times when I'm working at the desk, and my desk is a standing desk, fluid will accumulate. So I do standing heel raises them. All the way up. This one is challenging for those of you with hammer and or bunions. Hammer toes, I should say. And up, one more. So on your own, do as many as you can of these because it's unweighted, 20, 25. We're doing 10 to 15 over here. Now, I want to work the opposing area. I want to work those shins again. So I think I'm going to face you this time. We'll see if this works. The knees are still a little bit beyond, just a little bit beyond the ankles, because if your feet are too far back, you're not going to be able to do this. And I just call this toe taps, but technically it is lifting the balls of the feet. And I'm going to go pretty fast here. And I'm just going to tap, 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 making sure I'm sitting up tall, butt flesh is pulled out. I'm not resting my back against the chair, but if you need to have a cushion behind you or your yoga bolster, go for it. And because I did that walk today, I feel this. And at some point, there's like an accumulation of lactic acid, and it's just like, I cannot go any further. So I cannot go any further. So now let's come into, though, some gentle ankle rotations, okay? So what we're gonna do here is I push down on the left, interlock the fingers, unless, of course, if you have been told not to squeeze the fingers, if you're medicated or not for hypertension, you can place one hand on the other. You can also use your yoga strap and bring it underneath your thigh to lift it. But I do want you to push down on the left, lift the right. We come into hip flexion, not slouching, folks, okay? And very slowly, you're gonna make ankle circles. Now, a lot of people, and males, I'm not like blaming you, okay? But oftentimes I see very, very tight ankles with males. So you do want to take your time because oftentimes they do this instead of really moving the ankle. The other thing that I see happen with both males and females is they go really fast. Well, guess what? Most of the time it's sloppy. It's not really that full articulation of the joint that we're looking for. And reverse direction. Now I'm going to be forthcoming. This side is much more challenging on this particular movement than on the other side. Just don't rush. Take your time. If you can do like 15 in one direction and 15 in the other, but sometimes it's too much and you might have to just break it up, set the foot down, and then pick it back up again and continue on. I'm going to go for two more. Belly button is pulled in. Great. I'm going to set that down. Other side, push down on the right, interlock, lift the left, hip flexion, belly button in, sitting tall, no slouchy. And none of this, right? People do that too. Take your time. You might feel or hear a little snap, crackle, pop. Oftentimes, that's just all of the oxygen bubbles getting into the joint. It's not necessarily arthritis. I'm not saying it isn't, okay? But I am saying it could be something else in addition to or instead of. Let's go for two more. And reverse direction. So if you're a long fitness walker like I am, so you're going for mileage, this is good stuff to do. If you're a runner, good stuff to do. Belly button pulled in. Some people like hiking uphill. Give those feet, ankles, shins, and calves some TLC. I'm going to go for two more. Okay, now let's grab our yoga blocks. I'm going to put them out in front of me. And I'm going to bring my chair back a bit. I want the legs out in front, heels on the blocks. Yep. I think I want to really get that a little more even. Okay. Sitting tall, butt flesh pulled out. Okay, so I'm dorsiflexing the feet. Now, notice how much I am abducting the toes, stretching the toes like these fingers here, all right? Stretching them wide apart. I'm doing that with the toes. Now, I want you to curl the toes, scrunch them up, crunch them, and then open. Just the toes. And then open and curl. Big time open, stretch them wide, all right? And then curl. So I'm doing this about 10 times each. If you can do more, you do more. But don't, a lot of times people go to curl the toes, but they think they're curling the toes and they're plantar flexing the feet. It's okay. So we want to curl the toes and then stretch them wide, abduction, and crunch them up, abduct. Glad I washed my feet before this session. And then crunch the toes, scrunch them up, and abduct. And you might feel work in the shins here. You might feel a little bit of work in the calves as well. Let's go for 2 more each. I love it. It just feels like I'm really revitalizing my feet. And open them out. Okay, now runners will love this. This is super simple, but what I'm going to do is bring my chair a little closer so I can sit back further with my feet fully up on the blocks. Sit back. Now all I'm going to do is plantar flex my feet, and I'm going to hold. And I'm stretching. I'm stretching the shins. I'm stretching the dorsal side of the foot. Remember that when you stretch a muscle, you do the opposite action of the muscle. Holding here. It's nice. Feels so good. And when you hold your stretches, I would definitely say give yourselves a full solid 30 seconds to really enjoy a stretch and just kind of revel in it. And now let's do the opposite. So now I'm going to dorsiflex and I'm going to grab my yoga strap. So we want to bring it around the balls of the feet. Now, folks, I want you, those of you with back spine issues and postural deviations, I want you to stay upright because sometimes just doing any kind of a forward flexion might be contraindicated for you, okay? What I want you to do is a lot of times I see people grab their strap and they do this. They're letting the chair hold them. They're letting their shoulders, work real hard. So what I want is this: bend the elbows, pull from bicep, puff up the chest, push out through the heels, belly button is in. Then you're going to hinge from the hip if you can. You don't have to. So now we're getting the posterior side. We're getting the plantar side of the sides of the feet, right? Even though we're in dorsiflexion, we're stretching the Achilles tendon, we're stretching the calves, the hamstrings, and I have to be honest, I feel it all the way up into my buttocks and my lower back. Keep holding, but in a good way, right? So no rounding down. Don't think the rounding is going to get any further down. Now, please be careful. The hinging forward, you might tip your chair. Do not do that, please. Sit back in that chair further and bring your blocks closer. So this is excellent. Also, people have any kind of Achilles, like really tight Achilles tendon. That can happen a lot. And now let's slowly come back up, setting the feet down. And what I'd like you to do is just simply tap the feet. Now I have my heels lifted. I'll come back to center. And that's what we have for you today, folks, here on Boomerang Beyond Wellness. Folks, if you find value in the content, I would really appreciate you subscribing. I have a new goal of 210 subscribers for this week, so I'm hoping we can get there. And please feel free to share the material, maybe give it a kind comment, and perhaps hit the notification bell so you'll be informed as to so that you can remain current with the new content. And if you're interested in any virtual older adult personal training, also Hatha yoga virtually on site, massage therapy in Miami Beach, please feel free to contact me by way of the contact form on my website. Until next time, stay hydrated. You know that I live a whole food, plant exclusive lifestyle, and I eat, of course, the diet. And I would suggest that you eat your greens, eat your beans, and until next time, be well. Thanks again.